You know your past, you know where it is? It's only where you think. Do you know that every relationship you have, close your eyes, just close your eyes. Just close them. Okay, where's your husband? Where's your wife? Where are your children, your grandchildren? Where's your ex-spouse? They're all in your mind. Open your eyes. Now they're gone. Close your eyes. There they are again. They're just in your mind. You carry your relationships around in your mind. And if your thoughts about your relationships are on what is wrong, what you don't like, what you hate, what they did to you, that will be your experience. And you will materialize or manifest more and more of that pain into your life. If you look at what you love about them and make that the focus of your attention, that will be the nature of your relationship. It's the greatest secret in making any relationship work. It's so simple. Always focus on what you love if you want that to expand in your life. When you look at someone that you're in a relationship with, look at what you love. Because what you think about is what expands. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on. About not giving energy to the things you don't want. Because what you think about is what expands. And if what you're thinking about what you don't want, then more of what you don't want will just keep showing up. It's the only way it works. So now I'd suggest to everybody in this room and everybody listening that you take an eraser to all of the wounds of your past and you just send them away. And don't make them your calling card anymore. And bring the presence of God to those problems. And the presence of God is nothing more than a higher, faster energy. It's all energy. Everything is energy. As Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves. And spiritual energy is just energy that moves very fast and at very high frequencies. And problematic energy is very slow and very low frequencies. And when high, fast frequencies are put in the face of low, slow energies, they are nullified. They dissipate. They can't survive. There's a song that they sing at a lot of the churches that I speak in. It says, "Surely the presence of God is in this place." It's a great affirmation. Anytime, or the affirmation from A Course in Miracles, I can choose peace rather than this. But surely the presence of God is in this place. Every time that I have a conflict with one of my children or with any place, I just bring that line to bear on what I am experiencing right now. I just bring that line to bear. Surely the presence. Because there's no place that God is not. As the little child in India in the 7th century, who was an avatar, who was really God in a human form, and everywhere he would go, people would be healed just by being in his presence, just like St. Francis. He'd be seen in the village, he'd be seen in the valley at the same time. Lights would emanate from his body wherever he would go, and everyone in the village knew that this was a child of God. This was God in their village without the benefit of an ego. This was an egoless being who had shown up in their village, which is what I believe our great spiritual teachers were. Like there's ways to reach highest levels of consciousness. One of them is to take on an ego and then spend a big hunk of your life seeing if you can shed as much of it as you can. Which has been my path. But there's another one where you just show up and you never take on an ego in the first place. There's only been a handful of those in recorded history. And this little child was one of them. And the elders in the tribe knew that this was God in a human form. And they went up to the little boy and they said to him, trying to bribe him, "I'll give you an orange," they said, "if you can tell me where God is." And the little boy, without hesitating, said, "I'll give you 2 oranges if you can tell me where God isn't." It's one of the very fundamental precepts of this entire program, is that there's only one power in the universe, and that is the power of God. And that whenever we see evil, It's nothing more than love going in the wrong direction, away from its source. And all we have to do is figure out a way to get it to turn around and start returning to its source. Because there's only one power in the universe. And every time we think that we are in something that isn't good, like a problem, like disorder, disharmony, disease, discomfort, what we've done is we've used our mind to create a separation from God. And as long as we are moving away from that source, from that spirit, as long as we're moving opposite of that, those problems continue to manifest. But if we can somehow figure out a way to turn around and move back in that direction, we can eliminate it. I did an interview yesterday on this cable vision channel, and this young man, he said to me, he's a young kid right out of school, he said to me, I'm going to ask you some really tough questions. I'm going to make you sweat. So I was just sitting there, he said, he started asking me things like, why should I buy your book? You know? And I said, I don't really care if you do. I just wrote it, and if it's out there, and if you want to get it, fine, and if you don't, that's fine with me too. And he said, well, how is your book different from anybody else's book, and what makes it better? And what do you say to all of the people out there who say that you're just peddling, positiveness and trying to make other people feel good and you're making money off of that? I said, they may be right. I said, he said, that's what you tell them? I said, yeah. And then when we were off camera and we were walking out, he was a very nice young man. He said, boy, you just skirted right away from all of those tough questions. And I said, no, there's no such thing as a tough question when you are what Maslow called independent of the good opinion of other people. When you are beyond the need to be approved of, when you are beyond the need to have somebody else think that you're terrific, when you have slain your ego just a little bit, and believe me, I work on this hard, all right? And I'm just scratching the surface on it, all right? But as I get better and better at it, I find, in the Course in Miracle it says, if you knew, and underline knew as know, if you knew who walks beside you at all times, you would never experience fear again. If you really knew that all the things that Deepak and I had talked about this afternoon, that this universal intelligence is there, that the universe will handle the details, that it's all perfect, that it's in order, if you really knew that, and weren't consumed with anything else related to your ego, you would be so free. It's like somebody would come up to you and call you a jerk, and you'd say, you got a good point there. And someone else would think that they didn't like the way you said that. You say, that's fine. And you're looking at two people, and many of your questions ask that. You're looking at two people who get a lot of criticism from our professional organizations, from people out there, from colleagues, from people who are disaffected with that, from fundamentalists, from it's all over the place. And it's like when you talked about those three things about purpose. When you know you're on purpose, it's like that old Chinese proverb, that the taller the tree, the harder the wind blows. The more you get up, the more wind you're going to see coming your way, and you just sort of let it go. It's very peaceful.
There are certain features that distinguish these people that I'd like to define for our audience.
Sure, do it.
The first one is that their internal reference point is not their ego, it's not their image, but it's their immortal spirit, which is without beginning and without end. The second is their internal dialogue is not, as Wayne was saying, what's in it for me? Their internal dialogue is, how can I help? The third is,
that's a great mantra, by the way. How may I serve? How may I serve?
How can I help? Because if that's dharma, if I can help, then everything that I do out there, give out there, it comes to me, back to me.
Yeah.
The third characteristic is that there is wisdom and security in insecurity. That one should factor in that life is, by definition, uncertain. And it's a miracle that sometimes in that field of uncertainty we introduce an intention and magically appears. But if we relinquish our attachment to all the time want things to be in a certain way instead of how they actually are, then that's struggle. There's an expression I heard a long time ago, I don't even remember who said it. The person said,
probably me.
Yeah, probably. Maybe it is. When things don't seem to go my way, I let go of my idea of how they should be, trusting that I do not know the picture, the total picture. Because if I knew it, I'd know it's okay. So that is the wisdom of insecurity, the wisdom of uncertainty. And then, of course, the behavior of people who experience timelessness, it's spontaneous, never in anticipation of a response, never for approval, never the need to control. External goals go away, internal goals become much more important. Material goals are important, but they should not dominate our internal goals, which are the need to love, the need to be loved, the need to acquire wisdom, the need to discover our spiritual identity. And then finally, as I said, it is that there is loss of fear of change. Because all fear that exists is the fear of mortality in disguise. It's the fear of change. Get in touch with that part of yourself, which is beyond change, and then there is no fear.
It seems to me that fear would disappear in our lives completely if we knew that that divine omnipotence that flows through everything flows through us. If we really knew that and had that awareness and lived with it, that, then there's always, of course, the issue of do you just walk through life and not worry about anything, not be consumed with anything, because everything is just all handled for you and just taken care of? Or do you, as Jung put it, he said that's an enormous paradox that they talk about in the Gita, that's cleaving the opposites. He put it this way, he said, all of you, at the same moment that you are protagonists in your own life, making choices, at the same instant, you are also spear carriers, or the extras, in a much larger drama. In fact, he said, and he studied this for a lifetime, he said, you are doomed to make choices. So you've got to live with both of those opposites. And when you sort of cleave that opposite, you get very peaceful and you get purposeful. And it doesn't mean that you're resigned and say, oh, there's starvation in the world, so I won't be concerned about it. What you do is you don't get attached to it, and you don't tell yourself that it shouldn't be happening. And you say, yes, indeed, it must be a part of the divine plan, but so at the same instant is my desire to end it. So both of those are existing. So that's what you go with, your desire to end it. And you don't become one more part of the problem where you're just judging it.
As I readied myself to make the shift from an exclusively spiritual being into the world of particles in 1939, I had the following conversation with the creative intelligence I'll call God. God, what would you like to accomplish on this journey you're about to undertake? Me, I'd like to teach self-reliance, compassion, and forgiveness. God, are you certain that this is what you wish to dedicate this entire lifetime to? Me, yes, I can see the need even more clearly now. God, well then I think we'd better put your little ass into a series of foster homes and have you stay there for a decade or so, where you'll learn to experience relying upon yourself, and we'll remove your parents so that you won't be dissuaded from your mission. Me, I'll accept that, but what about my parents? Who will best facilitate my life's purpose? God, you can select Melvin Lyle Dyer as your father, a prisoner, an alcoholic, and a thief. He'll abandon you as a baby and never show up in your life. You'll first practice hating him and seeking revenge, but you'll ultimately forgive him long after he's left his body. This act of forgiveness will be the single most important event of your life. It will put you on the path that you're signing up for. Me. And my mother? What about her? Take Hazel Dyer, Lyle's wife. Her compassion for all of her children will give you an example to follow. She'll steadfastly work herself to the bone to reunite you and your brothers after 10 years or so of her own suffering. Me. Isn't it an awful, cruel fate for my father? God. Not at all. He signed up for this 25 years ago. He dedicated this entire lifetime to teach one of his children the lesson of forgiveness. A noble gesture, wouldn't you say? And your mother is here to show you how true compassion shows up every day. Now get down there and participate in becoming a particle. In the introduction of my book, You'll See It When You Believe It, I wrote about finding my father and visiting his grave in the early 1970s. The facts that led me there defy the laws of logic, and visiting it was the final hurdle I needed to overcome before initiating my writing and speaking career, or the mission I'd signed up for back in 1939. I've also visited the Holocaust sites of Europe and read and reread the history of events that contributed to the hatred that created war. In the 1960s, I worked to bring peace to the events surrounding the horrible Vietnam War, and today my attention is often focused on finding an alternative to the violence and hatred in Africa, the Middle East, and particularly Iraq. My calling is deep within me and has a hold on me. I don't know what I'm going to do next, but I'm probably being guided by what Spirit and I decided at the inception of this journey. One thing I know for certain is that I'm inspired. I've described my personal insight about my calling to encourage all of you to examine your own life, including all of its travails and success, as a necessary experience in order to fulfill your mission. Looking at life from this perspective nurtures the deep yearning within that will beckon you back to Spirit. As you can see from my own example, it can be a great help to look at your entire life as the unfolding of a plan that you participated in before you even arrived here. By doing so, you shift from blaming others and circumstances to being responsible and feeling your purpose. Whatever shows up in your life then becomes a part of the perfection of this plan. When everything you experience seems unwelcome, for instance, you can search for what you gain from the apparent obstacles. If we can remember that we're responsible for what we're attracting, we can then eliminate the negative energy we wallow in. If what we desire is to be inspired and feel joy, but the opposite keeps showing up, rather than cursing fate, we can view ourselves as simply being out of creative vibrational alignment. We can shift our vibrations in the form of thoughts to those that are more harmonious with our desires, and we can then begin to take the small steps necessary for our inspiration to be sensed. Source energy will cooperate with us when we seek it energetically. Moreover, we can begin to reassess our lives for misaligned attractions and imagined bad luck. When we feel peaceful within ourselves, we begin to attract more of the peace we desire because we're functioning from a spiritual place of peace. When we engage Spirit, we regain the power of our ultimate source. Regardless of what goes on in the world of form, inside of ourselves, we'd still be living in Spirit. For example, a beggar on a street corner may have agreed to come into this world of boundaries to teach and generate the awareness that leads to more compassion in this world, or even to teach a single person, perhaps you, to become more compassionate. In an infinite universe, there's no time restrictions on how many lifetimes we get. With an infinity before us, spending one lifetime teaching compassion doesn't seem so outrageous. When we feel peaceful within, we begin to attract more of the peace we desire because we're functioning from a spiritual place of peace. When we engage Spirit, we regain the power of our ultimate source. An inspirational attitude is less judgmental and more appreciative, with a keen eye for how God or source energy manifests. And remember, source can't be removed from what it creates. Everyone and everything contains God or the source, so be on the lookout for the God force in every living thing. Explore how this force has delivered to us many blessings in disguise. We came from a world of pure spirit and allowed that source to take over without any interference or questioning on our part. As long as we were in spirit, our source materialized in a multitude of ways to handle everything for us. Then, almost immediately after our birth into form, we initiated a program to deny Spirit and emphasize the ego. But now, as you listen to these words, you're on the threshold of dropping ego identity and returning to a life where inspiration awaits you. Love is the feeling you must learn to assume. Subconscious mind is really a piece of the one mind, and you and I are living in that mind. This universal subconscious mind is the first cause and the stuff from which all things are made. This thingless thing is really love. When you feel it, truly feel it within as your private inner awareness regarding what you would like to manifest, you gain the power of creation. Recall what St. Francis of Assisi said in one line of his famous prayer, "Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love." You are asking in this prayer to have the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you experience anger, frustration, fear, doubt, worry, stress, and so on, ramp up your love and immerse those negative feelings in a container of pure love. Simply choose to feel good because every moment of offering love brings your little sliver of subconscious mind into harmony with the all-creating one universal subconscious mind that is defined as love. I trust I've awakened with you the awareness that your feelings play a huge role in your becoming a God-realized manifesting being. Neville states this very clearly, quote, "Denying the evidence of the senses and appropriating the feeling of the wish fulfilled is the way to the realization of your desire," unquote. Apply his wisdom beginning now. It will serve you in ways that you may never have imagined in common hours. And remember that picturing the future without assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled is nothing but futile daydreaming. Practice feeling a thought that you have inserted into your imagination. Remember that a feeling is what you feel in your body as you contemplate what it is you wish to manifest or who you would like to become. Close your eyes and experience what that feels like in your body. Work with sensations that are not only your experience of what you are imagining in your body, but are triggers that assist you in moving from a thought to a hardened physical reality. Whatever feelings you are attempting to notice in your body regarding your wishes or desire, bathe it in love, the synonym for God. Imagine what you want. Imagine and feel that love as if you were now in possession of it. Continue doing this using love until your desire actually belongs to you. During this process, remind yourself that the more love, that is, the more God you offer, the sooner desire becomes reality. Look into your mirror fearlessly, saying, "I not only love you, I am love." Acquaint yourself with the subconscious mind. Your piece of subconscious mind acts on what you program into it so that it becomes your automatic mind acting habitually. Decide on a habit that you would like to be automatic. Being generous, for example. Tell yourself, "I am a generous person." Give something away in a spirit of generosity, even if it's only a small coin or a word of encouragement. The more thoughts and actions you practice around your new I am, the more the subconscious mind will react in kind until eventually it will act in generous ways out of a new habit that you've created. The subconscious mind responds to suggestions. You can reprogram your subconscious mind so that it goes on its accustomed role of autopilot with mental and feeling images from yourself. Talk to this automatically receptive component of yourself, telling it that you are unlimited and that you believe all things are possible. Fill it with images of you being all that you dare to become. Go to a quiet place and feel in your body what it would feel like were those thoughts in your imagination your present reality. Subconscious mind possesses the power to manifest physical reality from thoughts. Every object and circumstance in this world is representative of a mental thought. All that now exists was once imagined. Such is the power of the subconscious mind. But in order to partake of this incredible powerhouse of creation that you are, you must be able and willing to experience within yourself, in your mind, that which you wish to manifest. Thoughts become things when you feel them and are able to impress them upon the subconscious mind, which will then just take over. Here's how Neville describes this phenomenon. This substance is consciousness. It is your imagination which forms this substance into concepts, which concepts are then manifested as circumstances and physical objects. Thus, imagination made your world, unquote. And then his take on the importance of feelings in programming the subconscious mind. He says, quote, "The reality of your assumption has its being in complete independence of objective fact and will clothe itself in flesh if you persist in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. When you know that assumptions, if persisted in, harden into facts, then events which seem to the uninitiated mere accidents will be understood by you to be the logical and inevitable effects of your assumption. You have the power to impress upon the subconscious mind any I am of your choosing."
What are your visions of yourself? You see, all of this business about if you get tired, how many of you get tired? You don't have to get tired. I don't get tired. When it's time to go to sleep, There's no insomnia in my life, and there doesn't have to. Insomnia is one more of those things where you start telling yourself, I'm not going to be able to sleep. Look, you've been out, you're partying, you're at a convention, you're in New Orleans, get into bed, let's say, and it's 2 o'clock, and you know you got to get up at 6. You look at your watch. All right, it's 2 o'clock. 3 o'clock? 4 o'clock. 5 o'clock? 6. 1, 2, 3. If I were to fall asleep right this second, and I'm not even close, all right, I'd only get 4 hours of sleep. Here it comes, ready? Great imagery now. Boy, am I going to be tired tomorrow. Woo! Oh, I'm going to be tired. That'll keep you awake for at least an hour, all right? Your body just kind of goes, oh my God, and you start interfering with it. Your mind starts programming you, all right? Now, an hour later, you look at your watch and say, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. 3 hours. Now you upgrade your neurotic expectations for yourself. I'm going to be a zombie tomorrow. And then when you get out of bed and the alarm goes off, if you sleep, what do? You start counting backwards now. 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. You put your body instantly on droop. Kind of put your eyes sort of on bag. Don't expect anything out of me today. I didn't get any sleep last night or whatever. Until someone comes along halfway through the day and says, you know, we got a game tonight and we're going to go out and have a few drinks and we're going to, hey, that's great. Yeah, I think I'd like to do that. It's a choice. You ever notice how tired you get when you got something unpleasant to do? You know, you look at the lawn equipment and look at the roller and the edger. I'm going to lie down for 3 or 4 months. I'm really tired. It's a choice. If you just tell yourself, I don't need to think tired thoughts. When I tell you that the kind of visualization I'm talking about can end asthma, asthma is an easy one. Anybody who's suffered with asthma, and I've had a stepson who's had it, he holds on to it and he believes it and he wants to hang on to it, and that's it. He's going to have asthma until he doesn't want it anymore. And I tell him that and he just gets mad because he wants to hold on to his asthma. And he gets a lot of attention for it, and he gets a lot of people to remind him that he's sickly and that he can't do this and do that. And so he gets a lot of positive sort of affirmation for his negative reaction. I have seen people eliminate a lot more than asthma. When people ask me, what kind of a therapist are you? Where do you fit in? You know, are you a behaviorist? Are you a rational emotive therapist? Are you Freudian psychoanalyst? I call myself a do-do therapist. And I really mean that. A do-do therapist is someone who believes in the great secrets of the universe. One of the great secrets that you'll read in Icus is that I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. And not one moment before. I mean, not one of you who knows how to swim by watching somebody else do it or listening to somebody else give you instruction. You know how to swim because you got in the water and you flop around and you fill your mouth up a few times and then eventually you do. And you know something? What do you think is the difference in your physical skills between the moment before when you couldn't swim and the moment afterwards when you did let go and could swim for the first time? You think your physical skills are any different? They're exactly the same. We all know how to swim. Now you believe you can. And when you believe you can, you just do it. You just do it. And if you can't ride a bicycle, there's a woman who came to me and said, I can't ride a bicycle. My parents wouldn't let me. My mother would never let me get on a bicycle when I was a little kid. And I had these big white teeth and she was afraid I would break them. And I said, okay, that's great. Let's go. She said, go? Where are we going? She wanted to sit in the office. I said, I've got a bicycle downstairs in the garage, and we'll just go on, and I'm going to teach you how to ride a bike. You think I'm paying these kind of prices to come here and have you teach me how to ride a bicycle? I want to know why I can't. He said, oh, well, you didn't say that. That'll take another 30 seconds. You can't because you never got on one. And as soon as you do, and are willing to fail and fall down a few times, then you'll know how to ride it. And until that, you can blame mama forever. But it isn't going to change a thing. If you want to change something in your life, if you want to quit smoking, you don't need to go to the shit clinic. You don't need to go and poke holes in your cigarettes, so you get a hernia, trying to get that nicotine down into your lungs and a little bit less each time. And they have now a thing called poo-poo spray. I don't know if you've seen this, but it smells like poo-poo, all right? And you spray it on your fingers so that every time you go, oh, I don't want...
No, I won't be having any of those today, no. Now, you don't have to do that. What you do is, the first thing you do is you see yourself as an ex-smoker. You just see that. You visualize yourself there, and you take credit for having such a wonderful picture of yourself. You do that first. And then the second thing you do is you tell yourself how easy this is going to be. This isn't hard. There's nothing difficult about quitting smoking. You just do it. You just don't put cigarettes in your mouth one day at a time. That's what you do. And you don't tell yourself, I'm going to want them, I'm going to get fat, and all of these kind of, you don't do that. You stop the blame, and you do it. You want to lose weight. You see yourself looking the way you want to look instead of go on a diet. Everybody I know on a diet is fat. And if you change the way you see yourself, then when you've eaten enough, you stop. You just see yourself in a different way. You stop that. No, I don't want any more. You say, I think I'll exercise a little more. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do some kind of exercise. I'm going to walk. I'm going to get myself on an exercise bike. I'm going to go to a dance class. I see myself this way. Now I'm just going to act out on that instead of saying, oh, it's so hard to quit. It's just so hard to lose weight. I'm so depressed. I think I'll have some candy as soon as I get over that, you know. And I had a person come up to me after a talk one time and said, Dr. Dyer, you mean to tell me you never get depressed, ever? I said, of course not. She says, oh, that's depressing. Oh, that depresses me even more. You see, it depends on how you see yourself.
Someone just sent me recently a video that said the Steve Jobs top 10 rules for success. You know, and I went through the whole thing. It was about a 40-minute video, and I just started watching it. It was various times that Steve Jobs had been interviewed, and they went through his various success themes. And I think this story just summarizes about all 10 of them. It's called "Why Do Ducks Quack and Eagles Fly?" Years ago, this is in the Manila paper. Years ago, my friend Harvey McKay told me a wonderful story about a cab driver that proved this point. He was waiting in line for a ride at the airport. When a cab pulled up, the first thing Harvey noticed was that the taxi was polished to a bright shine. Smartly dressed in a white shirt, black tie, and freshly pressed black slacks, the cab driver jumped out and rounded the car to open the back passenger door for me. He handed my friend a laminated card and said, "I'm Wally. I'm your driver. While I'm loading your bags in the trunk, I'd like you to read my mission statement." Taken aback, Harvey read the card. It said, "Wally's mission statement. Quote, to get my customers to their destination in the quickest, safest, and cheapest way possible in a friendly environment." Unquote. This blew Harvey away, especially when he noticed that the inside of the car matched the outside, spotlessly clean. As he slid behind the wheel, Wally said, "Would you like a cup of coffee? I have a thermos of regular and one of decaf." My friend said jokingly, "No, I'd rather prefer a soft drink." Wally smiled and said, "No problem. I have a cooler up here in front with regular and Diet Coke, water, and orange juice." Almost stuttering, Harvey said, "I'll take a Diet Coke." Handing him his drink, Wally said, "If you'd like something to read, I have the Wall Street Journal, I have Time, Sports Illustrated, and USA Today." As they were pulling away, Wally handed my friend another laminated card. "These are the stations I get and the music they play, if you'd like to listen to the radio." As if that weren't enough, Wally told Harvey that he had the air conditioning on and asked if the temperature was comfortable for him. Then he advised Harvey of the best route to his destination for that time of day. He also let him know that he'd be happy to chat and tell him about some of the sights, or, if Harvey preferred, to leave him with his own thoughts. "Tell me, Wally," my amazed friend asked the driver, have you always served customers like this?" Wally smiled into the rearview mirror. "No, not always. In fact, it's only been in the last 2 years. My first 5 years driving, I spent most of my time complaining, like all the rest of the cabbies do. Then I heard this personal growth guru, Wayne Dyer, on the radio one day. He had just written a book called You'll See It When You Believe It. Dyer said that if you get up in the morning expecting to have a bad day, you'll rarely disappoint yourself. He said, "Stop complaining, differentiate yourself from your competition. Don't be a duck, be an eagle. Ducks quack and complain, eagles soar above the crowd." That hit me right between the eyes, said Wally. Dyer was really talking about me, I was always quacking and complaining, so I decided to change my attitude and become an eagle. I looked around at the other cabs and their drivers. The cabs were dirty, the drivers were unfriendly, and the customers were unhappy. So I decided to make some changes. I put in a few more at a time. When my customers responded well, I did more. I take it that it's paid off for you, Harvey said. It sure has, Wally replied. My first year as an eagle, I doubled my income from the previous year. This year, I'll probably quadruple it. You were lucky to get me today. I don't sit at cab stands anymore. My customers call me for appointments on my cell phone or leave a message on my answering machine. If I can't pick them up myself, I get a reliable cabbie friend to do it, and I take a piece of the action. Wally was phenomenal. He was running a limo service out of a yellow cab. I've probably told that story to more than 50 cab drivers over the years, and only 2 took the idea and ran with it. Whenever I go to their cities, I give them a call. The rest of the drivers quacked like ducks and told me all the reasons they couldn't do any of what I was suggesting. Wally, the cab driver, made a different choice. He decided to stop quacking like ducks and start soaring like eagles. No one can make you serve customers well. You make that choice. That's because great service is a choice. And at the end of this story says, I hope that this story will serve as a motivation, not only for our advocates, but also for people to look at things differently and make a choice to succeed in spite of everyday problems in life. Isn't that a great story?
I love that. I'd like to give that to a couple of waiters I've had recently.
Yes.
That weren't very happy to be where they were.
Well, you know, it's applicable to virtually everything. You don't even have to be out there working. It's applicable to how you run your family and how you run your home and you know, how you go shopping. Virtually anything that you do, and including how you keep your own car and your own home and everything else. It's like if you change the way you look at it, you know, and what he did is he heard this. I used to give this talk called Ducks and Eagles. This goes back many years. And I would talk about how eagles soar above the crowd and all of that, and ducks kind of just quack around and lay on the, always on the ground, and they're always stepping in their own duck shit and things like that. and eagles just had to soar above all of that, and learning how to be, how to change your attitude towards virtually everything that you do.